Welcome to Recipes for Success. This is a podcast that is hosted by myself, Annie de Groot, and Katie Porter, both members of the EpiVax team here in Providence. And we have special guests, Amy Rosenberg, also EpiVax employee, Sophie Tourdot, and Vibha Jawa. And now they're going to introduce themselves. Amy?
You're on mute, Amy.
Hi. Yes, I recently joined EpiVax after working for 33 years at the FDA and before that at NIH, and I'm delighted to be participating in this podcast. And I think the most salient thing I have to say is that I went into science and research after doing my medical training, because I realized if you can't think like a scientist, there's really not much you can do for people who have diseases that are not successfully treated. So you have to be able to think like a scientist to move things forward.
Great, thank you, Amy. Sophie?
Hi, I'm Sophie Tourdot. I am French and I moved to the US 4 years ago to come and work for a big pharma company, which was one of my dreams. And I am based in the Boston area and I'm loving it.
Great, thank you for joining tonight. Vibha?
Hi, Annie, and thank you both Annie and Katie for inviting me to this podcast. I'm looking forward to it and many more. I'm Indian, East Indian by origin, and I came to this country 23 years ago to University of Pennsylvania, and I have just been the most happy person doing a lot of different kinds of research, starting with gene therapy, going into biotech, and coming back now full circle to gene therapy. So awesome. I love everything which I do, and of course I made a lot of friends on the way. So, and I'm talking to a few of them right now.
Great. Katie, you want to give you a little bit of your background?
Sure, very nice, Vibha. My name is Katie Porter. I'm the business development manager at EpiVax. Have been for 5 years now, and prior to that with another large pharma, and jumped from a large pharma on the benchtop to a small company and doing business development. So it's been quite a change, but a very welcome change. And getting to make friends with many people in the industry, like everyone here on the line.
Great. So Recipes for Success, the concept about this podcast is that we'll be talking about food, because some of us love to cook, and so we'll be talking and cooking and having a chat over a glass of wine. We all have picked our beverage of choice, and we are here in the kitchen, which is where we often have these types of conversation. And the goal is actually to have a conversation maybe once a month, so that you, if you're participating and listening, you can hear what 4 or 5 friends talk about who are women in the biotechnology space, what it's like to be a scientist in that space, what it's like to be in the commercial space, what it's like to be engaged and interested in science in that space. And we'll also, of course, talk about cooking. So I'm cooking tonight, and I'll talk a little bit about what I'm making in a minute, but the other topics that we're going to cover are vaccine mandates, because we happen to be in a period of time when many of us are getting back to work. So I thought it'd be really interesting to start with that topic, since we know what EpiVax has done for vaccine mandates, but we don't know what everybody else has done and what their experience of it is. We can talk about roles of women in biotechnology. I think that will come up in many different ways tonight. And we will also talk about work and family, what it's like to be full-time in biotechnology and working, and also having kids and family obligations, older parents that we take care of. There's a lot going on. Kids in college, I think Amy can talk about that. My kids have graduated, thank God. And some of you have kids that are gonna go to college. So we'll be talking about what it's like to be a scientist, entrepreneur, and mother, and family member, and in the pandemic. How about that for topics? We will touch on good things for the COVID experience. Jack. you cannot participate in this podcast. That is my dog. His name is Jack, and he loves to comment. So the last couple of topics are good things about the COVID experience, bad things about the COVID experience. And I also wanted to see if we could get to the yin and yang of protein structure. Maybe we'll spend a few minutes on that on the end, and then we'll talk about it the next time we get together. So off we go. I am going to start by telling you what I'm cooking tonight. So let me do that. I am making Ottolenghi's roasted vegetables with bucatini pasta. And I made a new thing. So I think the challenge is, let's make something old. I've been making this dish for a while, but I also made roasted figs with chili pepper dressing. So Katie and I are gonna enjoy that. And let me tell you a little bit, because I thought it would be really interesting to share with you what I started with. So I have these two items right here. You can see what the one on the right or the left, depending on what you're looking at, is if you can't see it, is a celeriac. It's from the local market, the farmer's market where I went to yesterday. And they're really ugly objects. They kind of look like hairy green roots. And then if you roast them, they turn into this incredibly wonderful, delicious, I don't know what to say. I don't eat meat, but to me, it's almost like, I guess if I ate steak, maybe it would be like steak. So it does take 2 hours. So I did that before we got together tonight. And I've roasted some other vegetables. So I will be roasting. In fact, I'm going to put these in pretty quickly. These are some cut up peppers and zucchini with olive oil and salt. And I will also show you, I've already done the hard ones. These are the roasted eggplant and carrots, which have also been roasted in the oven at 450 degrees in olive and salt. Those are all done. And I'm going to combine everything all together. But while I put these in the oven, maybe we can start with COVID mandates. Katie, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on at EpiVax in terms of everyone getting tested or vaccinated?
Sure. So at EpiVax, obviously being a biotechnology company and heavily in the vaccine space, it's important to us that everyone is on board and vaccinated for the health of our lab staff, especially during COVID. We had them, they were the only people in the office. So it's very important to keep them safe, but along the way, it's still important to keep everyone safe. So everyone is vaccinated. If you have a reason not to be, that is something that can be brought up and discussed. But really, we're tested regularly and hoping to keep the safest work environment that we can.
Yes, so pretty much everyone, because we're scientists, decided to get vaccinated on their own. We did have one person peel off because of the vaccine mandate. We gave people a lot of warning over the summer, and we were sad to lose that individual, but I think everyone feels much safer at work because everyone is vaccinated. During the Delta kind of surge in Rhode Island, we actually started wearing masks again at work because we knew that there was transmission. We did have a lab member actually get infected. She stayed home, nobody else got infected. And probably we were protected because of the masks and the vaccines. So that's our situation. And I think that it is remarkable not to see people getting vaccinated in other places in the country. And I was wondering what's happening at your workplaces. Vibha, do you want to tell us what's happening with you guys?
Yeah, so we were told that we are a science-based company, so we need everyone to be vaccinated. And we do have a return to date where we are supposed to come back to work, and there is all of us have been asked to upload our vaccination records because they want a proof that we have been given the vaccinations, and that's all in our system. So whenever we go in, you have to, of course, we badge in so they know we are inside, and there's a testing every week. So you have to get tested at least once a week. whenever you go in, if you go twice or thrice just once, and it's valid for the whole week. And by November 1st, we actually want everyone who is coming to work to be vaccinated. And if people can't do it, they have to provide a reason, if it is health or other reasons, and then it would be evaluated.
So it's, everyone is mandated to get vaccinated, but there are some exceptions that you can talk to the HR department about, I guess.
Yes, it's getting, the HR is getting involved right away, because by November or October is when we are supposed to come back, and we don't want to put other people in danger or at risk. And so those people who are not able to, they won't be allowed to come in, and by November they have to be vaccinated.
So what are reasons, what are valid reasons for not getting vaccinated? I mean, people talk about religious exemptions, but really there's nothing that's come from any of the major religions regarding that exemption. Health, even immune suppressed people are getting vaccinated. They need more doses to reach a protective level. But what's a valid reason for not being vaccinated, except for if you have allergic responses to things like in the vaccine, like PEG? You know, other than anaphylactic type allergic reactions, what's a valid reason?
I could not get anything from my group, Amy. It's a very good question. And when you talk to people, and so we had a mandate, or we were not allowed to ask. That was because, you know, you're not allowed to ask anything more than, are you vaccinated? Which is fine, but now they are saying that you need to provide a reason. You can provide it to your manager, or you can provide it to the HR. But what I've heard, not from my group at least, or not from my place where I work, it's a lot of interesting kind of hypotheses and conspiracies. And one of them, which is, in fact, my neighbor tells me all the time, oh, Microsoft is putting chips in the vaccine and they're going to track us. I mean, that's as it can be quite like, you know, it's a conspiracy theory almost, and they believe in it. They actually want to say that, why did you do it? Because, you know, now you are tagged for life. So that's the kind of
Tell them their cell phone has them tagged already.
Yes. They're already tagged by their cell phone. Yeah. I mean, so as far, I think, Amy, you answered your own question, but as far as religion is concerned, there are no religious organizations that are giving exemptions. The Pope has said that getting a vaccine is an act of love. You know, I'm not religious, but I think the Pope these days is pretty progressive, and I'm pretty excited about that. But I think that in our experience, what we've encountered are people who are afraid of the impact on reproductive tissue. And so there's a lot of discussion about how the vaccine changes your menses, which of course would be an interesting topic for some research, because I think that many vaccines may change your menses. Any kind of stress or immunological stress could actually change your menses. And in fact, we know that when we are stressed as women, we stop menstruating. So, hey, you know, it's not like the end of the world. We start again in a little while. And so it's not the end of the world, because we know that people are definitely fertile after being vaccinated. There was even a study, I looked it up because I had to talk to a patient about this, but there was a study of people who were undergoing fertility treatment who got vaccinated and who were fully able to have the embryos implant without any problems. There have also been many, many women who were pregnant. I ran a vaccine site, so I know that women who were pregnant tolerated the vaccine just fine. And if you look at the reports in the CDC website, actually there was no increase in problems associated with pregnancy. So premature birth, problems with any kind of keeping the pregnancy and carrying it to term. There were no increases in problems with pregnancy. So I think that there was no real issue with fertility. I think that the whole thing about changes in menses and changes in your cycle actually does bear investigation, and there is a group in Boston that is investigating that.
Annie?
So, yeah.
Annie, just looking at the other side, what is the risk to pregnant women of getting COVID compared to getting the vaccine? I mean, you know, that's much more of a threat to a pregnancy or to getting pregnant, it seems to me, and I'm sure you know the studies better than I do, than getting COVID. That's always, you know, even adverse effects from vaccines like myocarditis, which is pretty rare, are much more common with the disease itself. You know, a risk-benefit analysis is something that has to be done for every subset of patient and, you know, for every possible outcome, adverse outcome. And for everyone I've seen, getting the disease incurs a far greater risk than getting the vaccine.
Absolutely right. And you know what? Let's get back to that thought, because I think we should talk about the inflammation that occurs because of COVID and its impact on people's.
Hey, Sophie, did Pfizer make their vaccine freely available to all employees?
That would be a good idea. You can't say?
Yes, no, I said yes, yes. Now that Amy, you know, said what company I work for, now I can go. I can go. No, yes, they did, and they even organized for our families and anyone living in the same house to be vaccinated as well. So they organized these huge clinics at different sites.
And can I just ask you, does Pfizer have a program for making vaccines and getting it to the third world, to, you know, to countries that, you know, have many unvaccinated people? Do they have any kind of special program for that?
They do through the government. So Pfizer and BioNTech have agreed to produce, I think it's 500 million maybe doses, and sell them a non-profit price for the US to then participate in that global effort.
Very nice.
Very nice. I think it's a wonderful time to be in biotechnology because, you know, obviously the company that some of us work for are actively contributing to improving the lives of people all around the world by making the vaccines available. And I think that's an incredibly positive. I think one of the things that people say when they don't want to get the vaccine actually is that they think that the scientists or the companies are capitalists and they're just making money. And I'm like, I know the scientists who are making these vaccines, who develop these vaccines, they are not in it for the money. They're in it because this is what we started to do in science. We joined the scientific workforce so that we could make a difference in people's lives. We are not fundamentally capitalist. That's not how we do these things. We want to contribute. I get so upset when they say that.
Me too. But it's
People think it looks like they're coming out with a virus targeted drug, Merck first, and several companies. So these are highly specific for coronaviruses. And how is that going to change the mind of, you know, people who are unvaccinated? I mean, to me, that's going to give them further ammunition for saying, I don't need a vaccine. There's there's a drug that's not a monoclonal antibody and requires in a systemic infusion and such. So I'm thinking it's wonderful that this drug has been developed the way it was for hepatitis C, but that's going to cause many more people not to get vaccinated. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, Amy, but I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think there will always be people who don't get vaccinated. You know, I think that, but if you want to work in the healthcare business, you have to get vaccinated. And I think that keeps our patients safe. You know, by the way, we get TB tested. We have a whole series of vaccines that we're supposed to actually, we have a whole series of vaccines that we have to take if we're healthcare workers. We have to show our proof of TB test. We have to show that we've had the German measles or German measles vaccine, so that we don't infect our patients. So COVID is just one of those things. It's going to be, you know, you have to get vaccinated to work in a healthcare field. And I think that the whole purpose of working in a healthcare field is that we want to protect other people. So that's makes sense to me. I understand in other fields, maybe people don't want to get vaccinated. And yes, this new medication might be helpful for them. And there are some people who may not be able to get vaccinated for whatever reason. We don't know yet. The vaccines are free, you know, are new. So as Amy said, maybe it's the PEG allergic people who can't get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
At my vaccine site, I have seen people get full body rashes, and we did send them to the emergency room just to get evaluated, not that anything bad happened. But we do see people who have some allergies to PEG or something else in the vaccine that did get a reaction. But we gave out 12,000 vaccines or 13,000 vaccines at our site, and we really didn't see a lot of side effects, at least at the time of the vaccination. So I'm making a zucchini. I think I showed you. So I am creating this. This is a recipe also out of Ottolenghi, just so you guys know, and I'll send you the links to the bucatini. These are fresh bucatini from Whole Foods. And what I'm going to do is I'm cooking them actually in hot water, of course. And then I'm going to save the water, and you actually put butter in the water, and then you add pecorino cheese and Parmesan. And it makes this really beautiful sauce. You have to whisk it while you're making it. And then you pour that on top of the pasta, and it's like this really light sauce. And I'm going to put that on the side, because tonight we're having dinner with my daughter-in-law, who actually doesn't eat gluten-full pasta. So she's brought her own pasta down. So we'll have that with the roasted vegetables on the side. And then we also, I made, I'll show it to you. I roasted, so it's a roasting dinner tonight. I made, I don't know if you can see. Oh, okay. Maybe I show it to you here. These are
That was for the gods, Annie.
roasted figs.
For the gods.
Okay. Roasted figs and a little bit of the fig juice went on the stove. We'll deal with that later. And that goes on top of arugula, and it goes with a little spicy chili olive oil that I've made an infusion with. And this is a new recipe. So the challenge actually for the next podcast is for one of us to do something that's old. I've been making roasted veggies for a while, and something new, which is the roasted figs that I'm making tonight. Turns out that Katie loves roasted figs.
I
so
do.
I had no idea.
I do.
Okay.
Watch your water, you're gonna boil over.
Okay, on to other topics. So let's talk a little bit about women in biotechnology. That's on our schedule for tonight. Let's talk about what it's like to be a woman in biotechnology. How do you feel, Sophie, in your job at your big pharma company? Do you feel supported? Do you feel like you get attention from and you're able to lead your team? You want to, maybe you can just talk in generalities if you wish.
Yes, honestly, I think I've been very lucky for, I can say, the totality of my career. I have never felt like being a woman was an issue. Apart from one position where it wasn't so much being a woman, it was being a mother that was being difficult. But as a woman scientist, I've always felt that I was heard and I was listened to the same way. And I got the promotion, I got the team. I think I never had any problem with, say, male members of a team. So interactions, I've never really felt like I was a woman. I always felt first I'm a scientist. then being a single mom at some point complicated everything, but we can come back to that. But for the science aspect and the environment, the discussions, I've never found anything like patronizing, condescending from men, or never. So I'm very lucky, because I know it can be extremely different for the women.
So we'll come back to the adjustments we have to make around children when we talk about being in biotechnology and having a family. So maybe we could ask Vibha if she wants to address what it's like to be a woman in biotechnology, and you could maybe even talk about things that you're working on to make a better path for younger women.
Sure. And so, Annie, I think Sophie was very lucky because she kind of got like a good group. So I would say that it was not that easy of a path. And it's been now 18 plus years since I have been in the biotech sector, and I moved from academic into biotech. And so I always wanted to stay in academia, but I came from India, so I was not necessarily allowed to apply for an academic job. So the only way I could stay on and work in research was moving on to the biotech sector, which in a way it worked out for me because I was able to still do research. But it was, first of all, when you go from academia into biotech, everyone thinks you're too ideal, like, oh, you need to work a little bit, but don't worry about delving deeper. So any new thing or any new observation, or even trying to think about doing things a bit different or questioning, is considered, this is not University of dash dash, like wherever you are. This is we are making drugs and we have to get to the next level. So those were the kind of responses. However, the only thing I can tell everyone, including if the younger scientists, women scientists are listening, is make your own group of people who would support you and partner and collaborate. And I was lucky because of my first role, I did collaborate. I think, Annie, you know, we started collaborating almost a decade and a half ago, and it just helped me a lot, because sometimes when you can't get things done one way, there are other paths which open, and that helped me to take my ideas and partner with others to the next level. And that was one reason I did become more successful overall in the place where I was. People did start listening, and even though I could not do much myself, there were other partners and collaborators who supported and did that research, so you could use that to show proof of concept and take it to that level where it was then used to build a strategy. So I think the bottom line I want to say is that it's not easy. People do become patronizing, and they also have this mindset that, why are you even doing this? You're supposed to go from A to B to Z and just get the drug out. And why do you want to worry about what happened to this person or this patient? And that only comes when you keep your scientific curiosity. And I did do that. I ended up in a different role, but I had the same problem. You would come to dead ends, and I just went back to my mentors and partners and asked them how to deal with it. And there's also a time when, you know, you can get, like you can't do too much, then you just decide to leave. You don't want to keep on working in an environment where you know it's not going to go anywhere, because it's a waste of time in a way, because you could take your idea and do it somewhere else and people would listen. So that's what I did after my first job. And I went to the second role. I did not want to stay long to convince people. I just went to a place or like group of people who knew what they wanted me to do it, and they also wanted to encourage me. So I feel good that I'm being listened to, and I'm also taking this vision to the next level.
That's nice. You know, when you started talking about having people who mentored you along the way, I was actually thinking about Sophie, and then we'll come back to Amy. But Sophie, you had a recent experience where you got a promotion, but I remember, and congratulations on the promotion, by the way, I do remember that you called your friends, right? You called the friends who were on this Zoom call to get some some feedback from about
Oh
the.
yeah, absolutely. Having the support, and definitely the most support I get and the best advice I get are from my women scientist friends. Definitely, because they know how everything works as a woman as well, on top of being a scientist. So yes, I did get some advice. I like chatting about science mainly. It's great to have friends who work in science and in the same field, because we can. It's funny actually how we start about talking about the weather, and then we talk about the dogs, the kids, and then we can't help it. At some point, some technology creeps in, right? And
Immunology creeps in.
Yes,
wonderful.
it's true. So Amy, do you want to talk a little bit about, did you have experiences where women mentored you? Do you want to share that with us?
Sure. I would say that, I've always, up until very recently, worked in the public sector, first at NIH and then at FDA. And NIH, my mentors were men, Al Singer, who was absolutely wonderful. And then when I got to FDA, so many of the upper leadership at FDA were women. And still are. So our acting commissioner now, Janet Woodcock, was the head of the Center for Biologics when I joined FDA, and Catherine Zune. And so, women have always been in the hierarchy at FDA, and, very encouraging, and certainly, the public sector attitudes towards childcare and family care, elder care, et cetera, those have been excellent programs. And I think those should be really incorporated across the board, and leave transfer, the ability to transfer any leave you've accumulated to somebody who needs it because of childbirth, because of, a sick parent. I think that's a wonderful program.
So leave transfer means that if you have time off and you have a friend who's got a sick parent, you can transfer your leave to them.
Correct. Absolutely.
Such an incredible benefit. And I agree with you totally that that's a really positive contribution to the world to be able to do that. And I think that it's the kind of thing that, I'm sorry to be very feminist about this, but women think about that. How can I help my friend? I have some extra time off I could give her because she's got to have an operation. She has breast cancer. Her kids are sick. I can give her my time off.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right.
Right.
It's unused annual leave, credit hours, whatever. You can donate to people who need it. So I think you're right. I mean, I think that's an excellent program.
I didn't really know about it until I started working at the free clinic where I work, and it hasn't come up at EpiVax, but I think it's a wonderful thing to know about. Do you guys have that at your businesses?
No, I don't. I mean, I love it. I mean, I would never even have thought something like that existed. And I think I want to bring it up to my management if they would do that.
Great idea. They might have it, but people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that you might not know about it.
Yeah, there may be something on the on websites, the NIH and FDA websites about those leave transfer programs. So that would be something you could take a look at.
So what you see bubbling on one of the screens is actually the pasta. I'm making this cacio e pepe sauce, which is you make it with the starch of the pasta and then you add Parmesan and pecorino. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the sauce, the sauce I'm going to put on the pasta, which is sauteed onions with fresh tomatoes from my back garden and some from the farmer's market, of course, because my back garden has not been very productive. With the roasted vegetables that I prepared, I showed them to you. There were some roasted eggplants, roasted carrots. The celeriac is in here. I cut it up into small pieces. And then I have some more roasted peppers that are going to come out of the oven. They'll be hot and I'll throw them in here too. So that's what's going on the side of the pasta. Since we have a gluten-free member of the team tonight, we're going to make the pasta that we're making, and she's bringing her own pasta to the table to eat with the roasted vegetables. So that's kind of what we're up to. But what we were talking about was so interesting. So let's go back to family and work. And we were talking about sharing leave at work, which is just an incredibly wonderful concept. Everyone should have that benefit at their workplace. To recap what it is, you can actually take your PTO and give it to your colleague at work so that they can take time off that they may need to care for a family member or to have surgery for breast cancer or do chemotherapy for their breast cancer or take care of their child. It's the kind of thing that, you know, it should be at every workplace. So we were just talking about the fact that not all of us have that. Now, the other thing to talk about is what is it like to be a woman in biotechnology and to have a full-time job and to even be head of a group, you know, maybe developing vaccines or new biologic products or working at the FDA as a regulator and have kids. I mean, because the reality is that, honestly, you know, I had a pretty good partner and I was married at one point in my life and my partners did share the work, but primarily I was in charge of making sure that the kids had a school to go to, had clothes on their backs, went to school, did their homework, and if they were sick, magically, I was the person who had to go get them and take them home and take care of them. So no matter what I was doing, and if I wasn't there because I was traveling, bad on me, guilt. So with that kind of experience, I'm sure that we can all share that. So let's start with Sophie. How's it going, Sophie? You have a teenager.
So with a teenager, things are a lot easier. The really hard years were the years where I could not leave her alone for even 5-10 minutes. So this was tough because then, yeah, if something happens, you've got to leave work. And I remember at the time in France, and France is really hard, I think, on working moms, not for the maternity, but then when you return to work, you really can't talk much about your family, something that I found in the UK and in the US is very different. You can really talk about your family and your boss most of the time, right? But again, I was lucky. I've always had managers in the UK, in the US, they're very understanding, but you can discuss the fact that, yeah, you've got family, you have to go home early or you have to take a day off because you need to take your kids wherever. And so back in France, I remember my first job in the biotech after leaving academia. It was really hard because I had to leave, I think I had to leave at 4:30 or 5. And in France, it's just not acceptable. You don't do that. You stay in the office until 7. Even if you're done, you have to pretend you're there because if you leave before 7, you're not committed. You're not engaged. Do you really like science or you prefer to be a mom? So it was really tough, this first. And she was small. She was, I think she was between 3 and 6, these 3 years that I was working for that company. It was really difficult. And now, of course, when she started growing up and being able to stay alone a little bit more, not to have to rely so much on babysitters all the time, and then that was better. And now it is true that the issues are different. It's not so much that I need to be home, but it's more that I need to have some time to think about her and some time to think about how I'm going to solve her with her the issues that are very different from just, you know, having a bruise or wanting a new doll, tantrums. So I would say, yeah, it's that, and you're happy when you work for a company who's very understanding and who gives you all this space and the flexibility to be a successful working mother.
So, Vibha?
Very nice, Sophie. I kind of, some things resonate with me too. And but even though I would say I got lucky, when I married my husband, my mother-in-law lives with us. So even when I had my two kids, I have a son and daughter, and um, they used to go. So we had a daycare at my work, which was really a great benefit. It was super expensive because I think at some point I thought I'm just working and giving all the money to the daycare, but at least I was doing science. If you have two kids and you're just giving away everything, but you could go there. I took both of them when they were 4 months old. So as soon as I got out of my maternity leave, they were both in that daycare, and I could go as many times in the day to go see them. I could go breastfeed them. I could sit with them, and so that was one of the benefits which I really liked. But of course, it was the time. Both of them were born in August, so they went in October, and they got super sick, especially my son because he was the older one, and so he would get sick. I would bring him home. My mother-in-law would make him better, and like 2 weeks later, he was back in the camp, and then he would get some other infection. But what I think is what worked for him is he's very immune robust now because he got so much in his. So I treat it as a great immunology experiment. And in fact, my daughter did not get that much sick because she got the immunity, which was passive from me. And for whatever reason, she was more resilient. But, overall, I think I liked the flexibility. I have been lucky that my manager, I don't know about the company, but the manager was very understanding. So I got lucky that they knew that I had to get off. And this was during their elementary school, like yours, Sophie, that they had activities. I had to go pick them up from school because once the pre-K finished at the workplace, I had to go put them in schools which have a schedule, and you have to put either pick them up or they have to go to our school aftercare, which also has a certain time limit. So if you go beyond that, it's like $10 every minute. So you better be there because you're going to make like $100 to give to them. So then I had to make a circle of friends. So if I'm getting late or I'm driving back and I can, so I had a very good circle of parents who would stay there till I reached, or they will just take my kids to their home and say,
Yes.
just come pick them up from my place, don't worry. And so my kids were eating dinner at their place. So I made this whole support. Of course, my husband was always there, so that was the biggest perk for me. I was traveling quite a bit. I was going to meetings even internationally, and my husband was always there. The two kids were very close to him, and my mother-in-law was there, so there was cooking going on at home. So
Wow.
I think it was a family support. So that's why I was able to do a lot more during those years than otherwise. How Sophie, you had to be back home for your little girl. So I feel very blessed. I feel very lucky, and it's gone on. Now that kids are teenagers, they're completely brats. I don't want to talk to them some days. And so again, my husband goes and talks to them. I just can't handle them. So
Now is when he can help, right? Now he can help.
so now they're all his. When they throw tantrums, he can go find them and figure it out. But one of them will go to college next year. The other one just entered high school. So my daughter. So hopefully we won't see too much temper tantrums. But I'm not looking forward to it for the next 4 years. So
Wonderful. Wonderful. Amy, now to you.
Okay, well, I have always been very lucky in being able to find very affordable childcare and close to work. And most of the childcare places, the pre-K, et cetera, programs, had extended days that went to at least 6 or 6:30. So it really allowed for great flexibility. And I also was very lucky in finding a wonderful nanny who took care of the kids, for much of the time. And she's still an absolute gem. She's from Colombia, South America. And so, the kids learned some Spanish from her. I got to practice my Spanish with her. She learned English from the kids. It was a very mutually beneficial and affordable relationship. And we're still very close friends. And she's still very close to the kids. What I find now that's difficult, now that my older one is in her last year of law school and my younger one is in her junior year of college, is not being so important to them anymore. That stings a bit, I have to say. I mean, for a while you're the be all and end all, and then you become, not quite as central to their lives, and that's kind of hard to take.
I can say that in my experience, I don't have any children, but my mother has become central to my life once again in my age, because we share a home together now. That she's 72 and I'm 42. And it's wonderful. So I hope that all the same comes back to you, because we're enjoying it thoroughly.
Thank you. We look forward to that, Katie. My son's living on the 3rd floor of my house, just want to say, and luckily his lovely wife is going to join us for dinner tonight. So it's, things do get better. They go away, they come back, Amy. Don't worry.
Yeah. No, Katie, your mom is very, very lucky to have you. And yeah, I think it's the company I miss more than anything. It's wonderful to have great people to interact with. All I have is a geriatric dog and a more geriatric cat. So.
Well, so how are we doing on time here?
We're approaching an hour. So
Yeah.
Do we want to get a
Yeah, so I'll give, I think I'm done with preparing dinner, so it's perfect timing. Let me tell you what I've done here. Hold on while I wash my hands. Because, cooking involves a lot of handling of food, which is a little bit problematic when you're trying to do video and things like that as well. So the sauce is done. It's eggplant, roasted eggplant, roasted pepper, roasted celeriac, roasted peppers. What did I forget? Carrots.
What do you have for protein, Annie? What's the protein in there?
I have a little bit of cheese, and I also have in my bucatini, which I'll show you next. So the bucatini are really great because they retain water, and when you're trying to make a sauce with them, they keep the water inside of them. And so this sauce requires the starch of the pasta to be mixed with the cheese. So all I did was add butter, which I did add a lot of butter, but we'll forgive ourselves tonight. Parmesan and pecorino and salt and pepper, and this is cacio e pepe. So we'll put that on the side.
You're channeling Julia Child with the butter.
Yeah. It does call for butter, which, I figure we kind of balance that out with a vegetarian, dinner. And then this is the new thing that I have never made before. I have no idea if it's going to be any good. You'll have to hear from Katie later. This is arugula. The base is arugula, which is from the farmer's market. It's a really nutty, spicy salad. And then I have the roasted peppers on top, and then this infused oil, which has hot peppers in it, and maple syrup and soy sauce.
roasted figs? You got figs.
Sorry, roasted figs. So there's sweet, there's salty, and there's spicy and nutty in one salad. So we will see how that goes.
Wow.
And that's it. The celeriac has been cut up. So for those of you who care about celeriac, that's what it looks like in the inside. It's really delicious. This is, a good meat substitute. You don't really need meat protein, Amy. You know that.
So Annie, the celeriac, is it starchy or is it more, is it like a potato or?
No, it's sort of like, it almost is pineapple.
It's like jicama,
It's kind of has, it's grainy like pineapple. and you can eat the outside, so you don't actually have to peel it. In this case, I did peel it, and because you have to mostly get the hair off of it. It is a very hairy little bugger, and you have to take this very scary implement and poke holes in it. So you have to poke little holes through the skin, 40 pricks, and then you baste it with the olive oil and the salt. And that's really important because the olive oil gets into it. And Katie, what do you think?
Yeah, so Vibha, I think it's more like a yucca for its like
Yes.
consistency,
Yeah.
but it has a very different flavor and it's really yummy. It's really
Yeah,
good.
we have something similar in the Indian, like there's a vegetable like this. It's more starchy, but you can make it with like, you can just skittle it and put like spices in it. So it looks like that, but I didn't know if it tasted more like celery. Does it taste like celery root? That's why it's called celeriac.
It is celery root.
Yeah.
Then I know it. I like it.
And
It's
then
yummy.
People put
France-
it in the soups to flavor, right? You put it
Yeah,
in the
but in
soups.
France, they actually grate it and they
Yeah.
put olive oil and salt and pepper in it. Yeah.
So
Amy, where
Yeah.
where do your figs come from?
They came from, actually, they're local figs. So they're, we have a lot of farming in Rhode Island. In fact, the number of farms has increased in the past few years. So these figs are organic and local.
Wow.
Yeah, the cool thing about figs is, the fruit does not come from a flower. It actually comes right from the branch.
Yes.
So they're pretty special. I have a fig tree
No
too.
idea.
yeah,
This
How
is
does
what we
your
get
fig
for
tree grow?
This is what we get for talking to scientists about food.
So Amy, is your fig tree growing? Because I have one which I planted when I came here 4 years ago. We used to in California, we had this huge fig tree and that would like fruit so much. So I thought I would grow one here, but it gets cold and then it goes away and then it comes back, but it's not fruiting at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you look at Italian neighborhoods that have lots of fig trees, they wrap them in burlap heavily in the winter. They cut them back a little, wrap them in burlap. It looks like a mummy in the yard. So if you do that, that might help a lot.
Okay.
I used to get a lot of figs. I think I cut the tree back too much. And I haven't gotten any this year, but I'm expecting some next year. I'm not going to cut it back nearly as much. So yeah. Wrap
All
it
right.
up in the winter.
I will do that.
And so on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up, as a matter of fact. And we did not get to talk about protein structure and function, immunogenicity and tolerance, but we can keep that for the next time we get together. The way to follow this podcast for now is going to be through the EpiVax website. So we'll set up a link and we'll share it on the EpiVax website. Of course, we'll send out a version to you to review before we send it out to everyone. And what we'd like to propose is that we talk about immunogenicity and tolerance next time, protein structure and function. Of course, there will be a lot of personal stories mixed in there. It's really been great today just to hear from all of you about your lives, about the pandemic, about vaccine mandates, and there's so much more to say. So I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. I can't thank the listeners enough for joining us, and we'll look forward to the next edition of this Recipes for Success.
This was
Thank you,
great
everyone.
fun.
Thank
This was great fun, and many thanks to Katie for setting it up and
Yes.
making it work.